All right, I got a couple of things to share with you guys this week about an upcoming expedition that I've got planned with a couple other guys that anyone that's been following my channel for very long knows well. One of them, Cornell, from the No Such Thing podcast from up in Massachusetts. And like I said, anybody's been following this channel knows about this. Last October, he flew down from Massachusetts. We went into the Kiamichi Mountains and did a little investigation there. Well, he's coming back down, and we're going to get together. It's going to be me, Cornell, Mark Copeland, that has the Livewire YouTube channel, and we're going to go to Mark's property down in southeast Oklahoma. He's moved back to Arkansas, but he's going to come back for this while they've still got that property, and we're going to do camp out there in those woods where he's had so much Bigfoot activity over the past year, and see what we can find there. And then on another night, while Cornell is down, we're going to go from Mark's property back into the Kiamichi Mountains and do a night or two investigation there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've been texting back and forth between Mark and Cornell most of today and yesterday, trying to get all this, just the timing, when he's coming down, and a game plan. So hopefully we'll get some good video footage during that time. So anyway, like I said, looking really forward to that and what we can come up with. Last time Cornell was down, we didn't see anything there in the Kiamichis, but we did hear some movement and some very loud near to camp vocalizations during that time. So hopefully we'll be a little better prepared this time with more and better video and sound equipment. So looking forward to that, what we may find on Mark's property as well as up in the Kiamichis north of there. So anyway, shout out to those guys. And like I said, if you guys aren't subscribed to Cornell's channel, the No Such Thing podcast, I highly recommend it. As time goes on, he's getting more and more very interesting content on his channel, and it's very interesting. Got some really good interviews, and hope y'all will check it out. And also, I got a email this week from a gentleman. Actually, I got the email a couple of weeks ago, and it's not a sighting per se, but there are some things that this individual witnessed that kind of ties into the encounter that Dale Boswell from Alabama sent me regarding the maybe infrasound, is what they were kind of speculating there, that he experienced in Alabama right after his sighting of the Sasquatch running away from him. And this kind of ties into that to a point. And this person, he gave me permission to use his story, and not only that, he said I can use his name also, and I'll just use the first name, Mike. And I've actually had a couple of good reports from people with the first name of Mike the last few weeks. But anyway, this fella's from eastern Kansas, right along the Missouri border. And most of my reports do come from Oklahoma, but I'm starting to get more from other states as well. And though my primary research area is in Oklahoma, I welcome and am very interested in hearing reports from other states as well. So if you have anything from either Oklahoma or anywhere else, I'd be glad to hear it. And you can send me an email at bigfootandmore@yahoo.com if you'd like to report sightings. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into Mike's report here. And like I said, it's not a sighting, but there's some interesting things in here that ties into the subject of infrasound that has been discussed quite a bit here lately. And he says, hello, Mr. Wilbanks. My name is Mike. Hopefully this reaches you. I've never really sent an email, so I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Anyway, he says, I live in eastern Kansas, just 20 miles away or so from the Missouri state line, and this is pretty much where this took place. Goes on to say, it was around late April or early May 3 years ago. I like to go hunt morel mushrooms, so I figured I would go out to this lake and try making my way over to the Missouri River and try my luck there. And I like to hunt morel mushrooms too. And this is the 1st of March, and here in about 3 or 4 weeks we'll be having them pop up around here, so I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, he said, I'm not sure if the screenshot got sent to you or not, but when I got to the lake, I parked over around shelter 11 and then started making my way toward the river, the whole time staying in the wooded area. And yes, Mike, your screenshot of the area, he sent a Google Maps aerial shot of the area that he was at. And it's a heavily wooded river bottom lands right in there where he was. He says, when I got to the, let's see here, I'm not sure if the screenshot got sent to you or not, but when I got to the lake, I parked over around shelter 11 and then started making my way toward the river, the whole time staying in the wooded area. When I got to the bottom of the hill, there's an old road that had to be crossed, and then just a little ways past that, some train tracks. Surprisingly, for being early or middle spring, the brush had gotten pretty thick around the train track. I was basically on my hands and knees fighting my way through a bunch of brush just to get through it. Now to my left and right is a bunch of fields where I think they grow soybeans, but there is a decent sized path of trees all the way down the middle to the river, and that's where I was walking. After I crossed the train tracks, he said I was probably about 100 yards or so into that tree line, almost to the river, or at least getting closer to it. And he said I was instantly stopped in my tracks by something that growled at me. And he says, now I'm not a hunter, but I do spend a lot of time in the woods, and I've heard a lot of different sounds and noises, and this was something completely different than I've heard before. He said I did a quick sweep looking around and didn't see anything, so I started heading toward the river again. He said I got 2 or 3 steps maybe, and it growled at me again, and I felt it this time. It rattled my insides, and I was instantly frozen. He said I couldn't move, and something was telling me not to lift my head up and look around, so I didn't. That's interesting right there, that feeling of dread. You know, if you spend a lot of time in the woods, you know, most of us could say you get that feeling like something's watching you, and I think that's probably a holdover sense that's left over in us from a time when we were not quite as high on the food chain as we are now, that gives us that warning. He said, I felt a fear that I have only felt one other time. That was about a year prior to this happening. I couldn't tell you, he said, I could tell you about that encounter or situation later if you would like. But anyway, not looking around to see what was going to, quote, kill me, I started slowly heading back toward my truck. He said, by this time I was done and ready to go. Something that I looked back at later is that making my way back to my vehicle, for some odd reason, I took some of the hardest paths to walk through. It was like I was in a daze or in some sort of confusion, because it took twice as long for me to get out and back to my vehicle than it took walking in. And I wasn't looking for mushrooms at all at this point, so he was just trying to get back to his place. Now, he said after getting back to the house later in the evening, he said I did a little Google search on animals around that could possibly growl at you like this, and stumbled upon some Sasquatch stories and encounters. I've always had an open mind about things, and I believe in Bigfoot, but never really put any thought into it until this point. And then he goes on to say, anyway, I'm not 100% sure that it was a cryptid because I didn't see it, but it's something that I've never heard before while I was out in the woods. And he says, sorry for the long email. I just figured it might help your data and anyone else know that I believe these creatures are real close to people. I'm assuming that they just follow the river. There's plenty of tree cover on both sides of that river for hundreds of miles. Thank you for taking the time to read this if it gets through to you. Well, it did get through to me, Mike, and I appreciate you sending this. And that is interesting. If you recall, and I'll put a link to the previous video at the end of this so you can compare what I was talking about. And there's a deer over there in the woods. But anyway, I'll put a link to there where you can compare. But Dale Boswell reported feeling that dazed and confused and feeling after he had seen this Sasquatch. Now, a lot of this comes under the subject of what people are calling infrasound. If Bigfoot has that ability to do that to maybe confuse or disorient people. I don't know. That has never happened to me while I'm in the woods, and I spend a lot of time in the woods, but it has been reported by a lot of people. And these reports like this, even if the person does not actually see what was causing this, I want to get these reports because they are just pieces of this puzzle that goes into my database that helps me when I get other reports with similar situations. But anyway, like I said, you know, he was in river bottoms, which a lot of these sightings take place in creek and river bottoms, which is just natural. That's a natural water source. Game animals follow water. I mean, that's just common knowledge there. So he was in the right place. So again, Mike, I appreciate you sending this, and you talking about the morel mushrooms reminds me that it's going to be time for me to start looking for them down here. Now, let me see if I got anything else here. I think that's about it. Also give a shout out to my friend Kerry Arnold and the crew at Bigfoot Odyssey. I got a big boost in subscribers after I took part in the documentary that he made about Mark Copeland and his encounters there in southeast Oklahoma. But anyway, that's all I got this week, and hope you guys, if you have a report that you'd like to share, you can send that to me at bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. That's bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. If you'd like it to be shared on this channel, just say so and I will. If you don't, I won't. So anyway, if you like what I'm doing with this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, you guys take care.